Hello, Scorpio. Welcome to your solar eclipse in Libra reading. I cannot wait to jump into this eclipse reading for you. We have quite a few interesting cards on the desk already. Sorry, my words are like escaping me. Um, so we have your reading. This is happening for you in your 12th house. Libra is your 12th house. And so we are looking at themes of kind of connecting with the divine, um, self sabotage, detoxing, letting things go, letting them dissolve, the endings of things, which I think is very fitting for this particular eclipse, especially when it does come to relationships, and just kind of letting go of the things that aren't built to last in order to bring in the things that are indeed built to last. I think it's kind of like the last Hail Mary and kind of clearing things out right before your season, of course. And so I think this is kind of like a big, huge, like a huge shift into that kind of time that you are bringing in right before your birthday, where you do have a new fresh start. Getting into the astrology, we have, of course, Libra in your 12th, and then we also have Mercury in Libra in your 12th. And so we're looking at um, themes of change. The 12th house is a cadent house, and so it's going to be a transitionary house. And so the 12th house has a lot to do with like feeling like some sort of like Saturn like things is very much 12th house kind of things. And so it can be self sabotage, kind of comparing yourself to others. It can be self sabotage in that way. But it can be a lot about kind of what's hidden, not just like what we hide from other people, but almost kind of like what we hide from ourselves, our subconscious, really getting down to those things. And so I think on one end, I think it can be a great time to kind of talk with a professional, trusted professional, like one on one, to kind of clear out any kind of psychic mess or, gunk that you might, just really be experiencing as far as like just kind of weighing on you mentally and spiritually. It could be a good time for Reiki, getting into yoga, those things, very Saturn like things. Um, but we see Mercury being in your 12th house, which I think with Mercury being there, Mercury rules over not just your eighth house, where we see Gemini, where we see like changes in communication, but it also is going to be the ruler of. Have to do math really quick. Hold on. It's going to be the ruler of your 11th house as well. And so it can be like hopes, dreams, and wishes, what you create with groups of people, what you create with friends. What do you hope to transform as far as your goals as well? And so I think a lot of that has to do with who do you have around you? Like, what are their ideals and what are their goals? Are they the same as yours? And I think a lot of it is just kind of clearing that out as well. I feel like so much of this eclipse is about obviously clearing out old, outdated relationships and old, outdated values in particular. A little bit more for Libra, but for Virgo and Libra, but for you, I think it's in the way of like those relationships just kind of dissolving because you're doing more work on yourself. I don't think it has as much to do with other people directly as it has to do with you just kind of really sitting with yourself and um, using other people more as like a sounding board to kind of work through some of the things that are going on in your own mind. This can be a time where maybe you are just kind of feeling a bit mentally heavy. And so I'd say, if you need time to just kind of rest and recuperate, I definitely think that that's something um, that's very beneficial. Venus, the ruler of this eclipse, is in your first house. And so it can be a time where you're feeling extra attractive, wanting to indulge in bed pleasures a bit more. Or just kind of being a bit more artistic, wanting to zone out with music or like something like yoga, or wanting to, do a sauna, or because I'm like, it's 12th house can be like smoke, and visibility as well, or, just wanting to be a bit more private. And so themes of like, self-care, I think are really more geared towards yourself in this eclipse. And so I think the other people or the relationship changes don't come through any sort of conflict. It comes through just kind of like a very quiet acceptance of the changes that you are undergoing through that alone time within yourself. And so it can be a time where maybe you're just, spending a lot of time just thinking to yourself about the changes that need to be made and what you want to achieve moving forward. Like we said, because the 12th house is going to be the where Libra is, and so Venus not only rules 12th house, but it also rules your seventh. And so it is about what relationships need to go. Or do you have certain unhealthy relationships with people, or do you partners have unhealthy relationships with different substances that you really cannot be around, or that you don't feel are very helpful, and you're just kind of self sabotaging yourself by continuing to associate with those things, those people, and places. Um, but it can be just a time where you're, examining not only your relationships with people, but also places, things, all the nouns. But I think that you're definitely coming out on the nicer end of this. You're a bit more intense during this time in your relationships. And so I definitely think it's a very sexy time for you guys with this eclipse. Um, we can see judgment coming up, which is like some sort of reconciliation. So it can be a time where you're willing to, sit down and talk things out with people. I'm not saying that it's going to automatically, fix everything, but I think judgment, rather than just kind of bringing closure to things, as in like saying, okay, I'm gonna cut this off. I think it's more of a time where you're hearing people out and you're listening more. That's what I get more from this card for you in particular. It's not about so much the closing things out as it is like just listening to what the heart is saying. What other people are not like necessarily, yes, what their words are saying, but also what is their heart saying about their intentions. Um, and just really listening to that and being a bit more sympathetic to that. Can you hear from people from the past with this card? Yep. Can you be faced with a time where you're trying to reconcile things? Yes. And I say that you're probably going to come out on the nicer and sweeter end of things because we do have the Four of Wands. So I do think some sort of like clarity or achievement is built. But honestly, I think this is a lot about you having a lot of sex. I'm not even gonna like sugarcoat it, because we also have the Three of Cups, which says like to me going out, getting laid, and then judgment is like the decision making of all of these. But it's when we have judgment coming up, it's not just a card about reconciliation, change, and transformation. It's Pluto. Judgment is Pluto, which can be just a very dominating healing planet through sexual healing. And so, with the 12th house and the 7th house being involved, I wonder if sexual healing is how you kind of work through things by banging it out, so to speak, because we also have the Hermit card. So, you're looking even more guilty here, Scorpio. Just be banging it out in the bedroom. I don't mean for this to become overly sexual, but this is like actually what I'm getting. Spending more time by yourself, even if it's not like sexual, it's like, healing comes through more of that sacral space, whether that be expressing yourself through sex or through art or sensuality, though that's how you heal. Um, And I think that there might be a pull to want to stay in with one person, Netflix and chill vibes. I just think that's what it is. But also, it can just be about like really being very discerning with your time, because we also have the Four of Pentacles, which can not only be about being very discerning about how you're spending your money, or how a partner is spending money, and maybe needing to sit down with a partner and be very honest about, hey, I know you love this thing and you're spending all this money on this, but we have joint resources and I'm being affected by this. I think this needs to stop, and we need to change how we are spending money together as a unit, because Venus and Scorpio is about what resources do you guys have together? And talking to a partner about, I feel like this is fair, I feel like this is not fair, and I feel like this is how we need to move forward in this. And I think that's where the judgment card is coming in, is there are some tough decisions that need to be made as far as that. And so it's not only about what finances maybe you need to let flow, but also create some structure around. So I'm not saying when you create structure, you're not blocking things out. The Four of Pentacles is not blocking things out. The Four of Pentacles is saying we just need to restructure some things. We're going to let things flow, but we're just going to, it's almost like creating a building. Buildings have windows, yes. And so therefore, we're going to open up the windows, but we're still going to create a building. The building still is the structure. We're going to open up some windows. We're going to let things flow. We're not going to say no to things. We're not going to block out the wind, but we're also not going to just welcome the wind in, to all the spaces, just where the windows are. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but it made sense to me. So, but you get the point, is that we're not blocking off all things. We're letting things flow. We're not trying to control things. We are letting things be what they be. And we are letting the lack of control that maybe we have around things become our surrender, and therefore our peace, which is very much 12th house. And it brings peace to not just you, but also your partnerships as well. And it brings a lot of clarity, as well as structure. And so, with that being said, Scorpio, that is your reading. I hope that it was helpful. Feel free to let me know down in the comments how you liked it and how you are doing during this eclipse. And I will talk to you in the next one.